This week, so much has been going on in the boat shed. I built the doghouse sole, which has been a project I've been waiting to do for a long time. Dave is doing a beautiful job finishing up all the trim around the doors. And the paint crew is getting really close to finishing up, so that means priming is right around the corner.
My name is Matt. Follow along as I turn Duracell, the legendary ocean racing sailboat, into a comfortable cruising home.
So you're going to start working on the sole in the doghouse. We need to find the line that the sole is going to make around the inside the doghouse.
And so you'll do the middle of this deck beam from the side.
Okay.
So I want it to be 73 inches, the sole to be 73 inches from the bottom of the deck beam. So we're going to mark the center of the deck beam. And then we're going to take plumb bob line, and we're going to make 2 marks on it, 74 inches apart.
Okay.
The top mark is going to be clamped to the deck beam.
Okay.
And so the plumb bob will hang, and that bottom mark will be 74 inches below the deck beam.
Okay.
And so that marks the bottom of the sole board. The sole board's an inch thick.
Right.
And so then we'll take the laser, and we'll shoot the laser so that it hits that bottom mark, and that will mark all the way around where the bottom of the floorboards will be and where the top of the cleats will be that support the floorboards. So,
Okay.
easy peasy.
He said. All right.
My mom scored on the bulkhead where the top of the flooring cleats should go. So I pre-fit and pre-drilled the holes before doing any gluing. This part of the bulkhead was glued in very early in the project when I built a new main bulkhead slightly after the original. I've hemmed and hawed for years now trying to decide the height of the doghouse sole, and it's time to make a decision. This section of the bulkhead will be the end of the doghouse sole and support that sole board, so I'm cutting it down to the height of the rest of the sole board floorings. All right, so the next project is to build the sole underneath the doghouse, and so the first thing is to put the structure around that's going to hold the sole in. So these are the cleats that I'm going to be gluing in, just using the Thixo Pro. Going to fasten them to the walls, and tomorrow we'll get to install the boards. Once the Total Boat Thixo Pro epoxy had been spread out on both the bulkhead and the cleats, I used those pre-drilled holes to precisely place the cleats. The hardest part of this is that the bulkhead is foam cored and doesn't hold a fastener very well, so I'm very careful when turning the fasteners into the bulkhead so they don't strip out the hole and keep a tight fit to the bulkhead. After the epoxy is cured, I'll remove the fasteners.
So I am cutting lamination materials for a piece of foam board, 4x8 piece of foam board. I have one more piece of peel ply to go, but the board is going to go on the floor in the doghouse. Very exciting.
After my mom cut the materials, Dave and Alex helped me laminate and vacuum bag the foam panel. This sole board will have the highest traffic, furthest span between supports, and will also be kind of high above some very important equipment. So I decided to go with an inch thick instead of my normal 3/4 inch for extra stiffness. And I'm doing 2 layers of glass on the top side for both impact resistance and even more stiffness. This board will also get a floor material laminated to the top that the rest of the boat will get, cork or wood veneer, whichever I decide on. We've done so many of these panels, and it is way more fun and much faster when friends join me for the project. The next day, I did my usual templating to find the shape of the doghouse sole. You'll notice that I'm not using one long piece for the sides, but rather a few pieces spliced together. That's because the sides are not perfectly straight. They have fiberglass tapes that make the wall a little lumpy, plus these walls were not made as one piece and installed. I glued them in individually and then taped them together. And as hard as I tried, they're not perfectly in line with each other. So in order to build the most tight-fitting sole boards, I'm templating with more short pieces rather than fewer longer planks.
Look at that.
Cool.
How's it feel?
It's good. I lowered it an inch, and so I have lots more overhead clearance. Feels Feels very stiff. And it's actually going to be cut in half, like right here. So there'll be 2 floorboards to take up. Under this space will be the motor and the battery bank. And so it needs to have good access. I won't be able to access it from the port side because the fuel tank is there, but I will be able to access it from the starboard side in that quarter berth and from the top.
While Smalls worked on sanding the Traveler bulkhead down to level perfection, our friends Marie and Alex worked on glassing in a window. I built these windows a while ago now, and the finishing touches have yet to be done. Alex and Marie are laying a couple layers of 6-ounce cloth tapes to connect the inside skin of the window to the outside skin. Meanwhile, our friend Dave continued working on the trim that is going around the rest of the doors in the boat.
All right, Smalls, you and your crew have been working hard for the last few weeks. Can you tell us where you're at in the project?
Oh,
In this massive project.
well, right now we're at a stage where we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, meaning we should be done by 2 days next week. What we're doing is detailing, doing our last glazing if we have to glaze anything, detail everything out, make sure it's nice, all the curves are nice, and get ready for put on some primer at the end of the week next week.
Yeah, which Matt is doing.
Which Matt is doing.
Yes. So I'm curious, can you just tell, you are from Trinidad?
I'm from Trinidad, yes, Trinidad and Tobago, Caribbean.
Yeah, and what brought you to Port Townsend and how did you get into this work?
Oh, well, this goes way back to 1995. And I had a friend that he got an offer in a boatyard. And he's the one that told me about boats. Went up in the boatyard and I was like, oh, this looks nice. This looks like a career. Within the first 2 days, I just fell in love with boats.
Yeah.
And we did it from 95 to 2000 in the boatyard in Trinidad, and then we left and we went to Grenada for 5 years. I was there. But while working in Grenada is where I met 2 friends. They're the one that told me about this little town because they went to the wooden boat school over here.
Ah, yes.
And it sounds interesting, and we came up to Florida. We drove across the country from Florida to Port Townsend, and as soon as I entered Port Townsend, within, again, the first 2 weeks, fell in love in this place. And I decided, well, I like it up here, everything's nice, there's a lot of boats, and again, I love boats, so working on them. And I ended up staying up here and relaxing and made a visit back and forth, and the more I come here, the more I loved it. And that's how I ended up in Port Townsend.
Dave spent several days making 3 additional door frames, 2 for the quarter berths and 1 for the head. Here he is with Cormac working on laying up a new frame. let the frames cure overnight before taking them off the mold.
Cool. Here Dave is planing down the straight sections of the door frames with this cool hand planer I just got. Beautiful.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. You've trimmed
some door
out all the
trim.
doors.
It's very trimmy, yeah.
Yes.
It's,
They're beautiful. It only took you like a week to get all these done.
oh, something like that, yeah.
Well, we really appreciate the help. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, my pleasure, thanks.
I'm going to put the compressor on.
My name's Olivia.
Olivia, where did you grow up and how did you come to Port Townsend and get into this work?
I mostly grew up in Paulsbo. I guess I came to Port Townsend because my mom was here. I'd been gone for the summer in Yellowstone, and then her best friend Margie is really good friends with Smalls, so she kind of hooked me up with a spot here.
And how long ago was that? How long have you been doing this work?
Since October of 2021. Well, minus a summer or two. I went back to Yellowstone.
Cool. What were you doing in Yellowstone?
I was taking people on trail rides, being a wrangler.
Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
It was fun.
So, what do you like this work?
I do.
Yeah.
I went to tech school during high school to be, or for collision repair, so it kind of transfers over, the bodywork does. And I really like the painting. I didn't know that paint could flow so well with just brushing and tipping it, or rolling and tipping. So it's very satisfying to see.
So I feel kind of bad that you guys are just doing the grueling fairing and
That's
sanding
okay.
without the painting.
It's still fun.
Okay, cool. And you guys, you've been at this for weeks. This today or tomorrow is your last day.
Yeah.
And you can be totally honest. Are you excited to be done with this project?
A little bit, yeah. I'm excited to not have dust in my car and everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I make
Well-
sure that I wash my hands when I get home before I pet my cat, and yeah, she's used to me just picking her up right away, so she's a little miffed by it. But
But she has to wait for the hand washing.
yeah.
Cool. Well, we really appreciate the work that you've done and the crew.
Yeah, and it'll be cool to see when it's all finished.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we'll have you guys over for lunch or something when it's
Okay.
painted. Yeah, so you can see it.
that would be fun.